Yo, what's going on, guys? We have finally gathered all of the Infinity Stones of Absolute, and so today we'll be taking a look at the complete Heisenberg Quantum Squad, Emma, Enwa, and now Vesti, because you see we can observe their performance when they're all working together, but not how good they are individually because their kits don't work. So without further ado, first let's take a look at Vesti's kit. Then we'll take a look at how this team compares to other teams, and lastly, my closing thoughts on the trio. Let's get it! Alright, so first off we have skill 1, Missile Guide. It activates when performing a full charge attack. Now what it does is increase her charge speed by 100% for 3 rounds, and increases her charge damage by 58.5% for those 3 rounds as well. Now the second part is that when she reloads to max ammo, she removes Missile Guide. So every time she reloads, she removes this, and when she performs a full charge attack, she gains it back. So pretty simple. Okay, now for skill 2, Monster Stage. Activates when landing full charge attack on the target. Deals 266% of final attack as true damage. Now the second part is activates when landing full charge attacks in battle formation status, and that allows her to get 20% of attack for 3 seconds. Now what is battle formation status? It's nowhere here. That's because this skill is from Emma, and when Emma bursts, she enters battle formation, so Emma is needed to activate this part of her skill too. And then when she performs full charge attack again, and the target is in explosive round status, she gains explosion damage increased by 20% for 3 seconds. Now what is explosive round status? It's nowhere here again. That's because this is the ultimate from Enwa. So you need Enwa to perform her full charge attack explosion during her burst in order to apply her debuff to the enemy, which will allow Vesti to then attack that enemy and get this explosion damage bonus. So both Enwa and Emma are needed to activate this skill 2 fully. Without them, she only gets this this damage as true damage right here. Now moving on to the burst, you got explosion radius increased by 100% for 10 seconds and true damage increased by 60% for 10 seconds. So this is for the duration of the burst. Now the second part is the damage dealing part, which says it deals 492% of final attack as true damage. So almost every single attack that Vesti is doing is considered true damage, so both Emma and Enwa will be buffing these multipliers right here, which is the first fully true damage scaling unit that we have in the game. So that's about it for the skills, pretty simple stuff. Now let's go over some of the units that we'll be testing. Alright, so first off we have the supporting characters. Now, because this is a trio, this is a B1, B2 and B3 squad, there is very limited options for supporting characters due to the fact that you have to have another B3 to do damage, and so that leaves one flex spot for a buffer. Now, so what I was testing was Flora because she buffs that true damage, which is synergistic with both of the true damage dealers and the squad. Then we got D because, as you will notice when you actually use the squad, is that they don't have enough cooldown reduction to actually burst off burst, so every single time you end up waiting for about 5 seconds in order to burst. So D helps with that and helps them burst off cooldown. So even though she does not really buff the team all that much directly, she ends up being one of the best supports for the team because of that cooldown reduction. Now the third one is Helm, obviously universal buffer pretty much. And then we got Naga, who ends up not being that great as expected due to the fact that both of the damage dealers in most of the teams are going to be rocket launcher users. As far as the damage dealers go that you pair with Vesti, there is only 2 other units that you can pair with her really, is Laplace and Ein. These are the only 2 B3 units that deal true damage in the game right now aside from Vesti, and only one of them does explosion damage and is a rocket launcher. So Laplace synergizes with the buffs of the team way more than Ein does, but we're gonna see that in the number section a little bit. And of course then we're gonna be comparing this team and the variations of this team to other general buffer teams that where you could put Vesti in. to see how those teams would perform against the specialized trio. So now let's go over to the numbers section and see how those teams actually performed and how other established teams compared to this new trio team. Alright, so now for the damage section, we got Emma, Enwa, and Vesti trio with Laplace and Helm. This is going to be the base team that I'm going to be comparing every other team to. Now in this team, Vesti did 448 million damage, Laplace did 441 million damage, and the total team damage was 1.54 billion damage. Now moving on, I wanted to compare Naga to Helm in this team. As expected, she did not perform very well, 89% of the original damage, 1.37 billion total damage. Vesti as well as Laplace losing damage as well individually. Now the third team, we got Flora in here, which is a directional buffer, so she has to be in either position 2 or 4 between the two DPSs. So we got Vesti, Laplace with Flora in the middle. You can see that both Laplace and Vesti are doing more damage due to the fact that their true damage is increased as opposed to the buffs from Naga. So we got 1.3 billion damage total, 85% of the original. So she may or may not be used in this team in some situations with enemies with super high defensive abilities, but overall in general probably not going to be used as much. Now the third team, we got the Killer Wife on the end here, same team. Now this is one of my favorite teams to use with the trio, is because it lowers the cooldown reduction, so this team can actually burst off cooldown. So in other teams where there is no cooldown reduction, you have to wait about 5 seconds every single rotation before you can burst, so it's kind of annoying. So in this team you don't have to do that, and both Vesti and Laplace are doing significant damage. Vesti is doing the highest damage out of all teams aside from this one, which includes Crown, which I'm not really counting because Crown, you know, if you could have 5 crowns you would use her on every single team, but you don't. So Crown is going to be on some other team most likely, which leaves this team as the highest damaging for Vesti. Total damage 1.53 billion damage, doing 99.7% of the original damage, so about the same damage, and it feels way smoother to play and better to play. So this is my favorite team. This is the one that I would recommend most out of all these teams that I tested. But moving on, we got Vesti and Ein, the same team as the first one, comparing Laplace to Ein. You can see that Ein is not doing as much damage as Laplace, 382 million damage, doing 96%, obviously because Ein did less damage here. So Ein not as good in this team as Laplace, which is also expected due to the fact that Laplace is doing explosive damage whereas Ein is not. Then moving on, we got Vesti and Alice. Now Alice is nice here because Vesti actually takes forever to charge up her shots, which Alice helps with that for charge speed. Now in the damage, she did about the same damage as the other teams here, and Alice has to be played manually. Alice did 496 million damage here, the total damage 1.65 billion damage, doing 107% of the original. And here if you replace Helm with the Killer Wife, it would probably be around the same damage as this team right here. So this is also a viable damage, but it requires manual play on Alice, so it may not be a favorite for a lot of people. So here, moving on, we have more general teams that do not include the trio, just to compare how the trio does to other buffers. First off, we have Crown Leader Helm. Obviously this team is going to be exceptionally good, 2.17 billion damage total, Laplace doing 750 million, Vesti doing 504 million, the most out of all teams. However, I'm not counting this team due to the fact that it has Crown, as stated before, doing 141% of the team damage. And the reason I'm not counting this team is because, you know, like, it's because who would you rather use, Crown Leader Helm or Crown Little Mermaid Helm on, right? Would you rather have Vesti on the team, or would you rather have Rapi or Mihara, or both of them on the team, right? Mihara and Rapi will benefit from these buffers way more than this team, so you would not really run Vesti with those buffers. However, I just wanted to see how this team would perform, so here you have it, very strong. And then moving on, we have Grave, the Killer Wife, and Helm. The Killer Wife and Grave does not really buff Vesti here at all. So we have the lowest personal damage for Vesti, 307 million damage here, 522 for Laplace, 1.4 billion team damage, 94% of the original damage. Not really great. Then moving on, we have Tia Naga duo with leader. This team again benefits Laplace a little bit more, and not very good for Vesti. Overall 87% of original, again not very good. It just shows that Laplace is a much more generalist, which benefits from all kinds of buffs way more than purely true damage scaling Vesti here. So moving on, then we have Must and Anchor. Again, not very good. 1.2 billion total damage, 83% of the original. Vesti not doing great. Laplace even worse than the previous team. So overall, there isn't really that much variation in the teams that allow you to do very good damage with Vesti and have synergy with the entire team. Basically, you have this team right here and then this one right here with Alice. And so moving on here, I wanted to also show this, which is a high defense versus low defense Vesti versus Alice on auto. So this is basically how much more damage Vesti does versus Alice in different scenarios, right? With high defense and with low defense. So in a low defense scenario, Vesti does 110% of Alice's damage here. But when you increase the defensive abilities of the enemy by quite a bit, she ends up doing 136% of the damage, right? So it's almost like a 25% increase in damage compared to Alice when switching from low defense enemy to a high defense enemy. So that just shows that the stronger the enemy is, the more powerful these true damage buffers will be getting. And the new Solo Raid boss has an ability that increases its defense by 360%. Coincidence? I don't think so. But anyway, so for investment, I recommend going for 4, 10, 7, and then for the overload lines, going for elemental attack, getting some max ammo so that the Vesti does not have to reload during her burst window, and then getting some charge speed and charge damage. And now for my final thoughts. So what I think about the trio, I mean, the trio has potential. They have potential to be very good, especially when moving forward. If we get enemies with high defensive abilities, their potential will just keep increasing, and it will keep increasing as we get more units that deal true damage. But right now, they're not very good due to the fact that there isn't many enemies that have high defense, and that there isn't that many teammates that can go with this squad. True damage dealers are very scarce. We have only Laplace and Ayn, as I stated before, so not much to pick from there. And aside from the new Solo Raid boss and, for example, Mirror Container, not many very high defensive enemies. And so the squad is not bad, but given the cost that you have to have 3 separate units to fully activate all of the kits, it's just not worth it in my opinion. So I would recommend putting them on the wishlist if you do not care about the Solo Raid. As I stated before, this Solo Raid boss has an ability that increases its defense by 360%, so I would expect that this squad will be quite good during that Solo Raid, but outside of that, it will kind of fall off, I think. And also, there isn't much flexibility in teams in general, right? Because you need both Enwa, Emma, and Vesti, so there's 3 spots. And so then the 4th one has to be another damage dealer, and then you have 1 flex spot for a buffer. And also, you know, we had squads before, like duos that work well together, but they're not restricted to each other. For example, Naga, you can put her on any team and she works just fine. You can put Must as an off-burst B2 buffer on any team and she works very good. The closest example of a restricted duo that we had is Blanc from 777, right? She has to have a teammate on the team in order to reduce her cooldown from 60 seconds to 20 seconds. But outside of that, there isn't examples of this being the case. And in a Blanc example, it isn't even her kit being restricted, it's just the cooldown of their kit being applied. So it's not even a one-to-one comparison. But me personally, I'm hoping that we won't see too much of this trend going forward, where units don't work unless they're placed with the squad members, especially when it comes to pilgrims and overspec units, right? Imagine if there is a squad like this, but they're pilgrims where they're 1% units, and you have to spend, you know, 600 tickets or, you know, 600 pulls in order to get all 3 of them, otherwise they do not work at all. So you'd have to have all this currency saved up in order to get them. I think that's quite problematic, but I don't know, maybe I'm the minority. Let me know what you think about Vesti and the trio, and what do you think about unit dependency and this restriction where all these units have to be with each other in order to activate their kits. But that's it from me for now. Like, comment, sub, and I'll see you next time.